Island Provisor, Manila, Luzon, Philippines, February 10, 1945. Situated along the south shore of the Pasig River, Isla Provisor was 400 by 125 meters in size, but with no sandy beaches, no seawall, no tropical jungle, just factory buildings, tin-roofed workshops, a power plant, a boiler room, and a large coal pile that covered the eastern end of the island. The first American assault to take the island met with disaster. One boat made it across the estero, while another was hit by mortar fire and the survivors swam ashore. The Americans' first objective was the boiler room, but the resolute Japanese pushed them back out. For the next 18 hours, the small group of Americans would wait out heavy artillery barrages from both Japanese and American guns. At 0230 hours, 6 more boats tried crossing the narrow stretch of water, but the moon came out from behind some clouds and 3 boats were sunk. Beginning at 0500 on February 10, Americans and Japanese stalked each other in the tangled rubble on Provisor. This is Provisor Island, where the battle will take place. Let's analyze the terrain and its peculiarities. The first noteworthy structure is the coal pile, located on the eastern end of the island. The coal pile consists of hex 4P37 and the 4 adjacent dark gray hexes, with a long, thick, dark black line of 4 hexes running down the middle of the coal crest. The coal pile is treated as a level 1 hill, unless otherwise noted. The only fortifications allowed on a coal pile hex are wire/minefields. The number for flame formation and fire spread is 11. The coal pile normally has a terrain modifier effect of +1. However, its TEM is -1 to any attack by demolition charges, bombardment, or heat round attacks. The residual firepower of an attack that has received a -1 modifier and is increased by 1 column on the infantry firepower table. Only infantry/SW can deploy on a coal pile hex. A dismantled 70 to 90 mm mortar cannot be mounted on such a hex. The terrain entry cost of a coal pile hex is 1 MF, plus any elevation change. Coal crest, infantry on a coal pile hex are either in the coal pile or in crest status on one or more coal crest hexes. Crest status is indicated by being placed on a crest marker, whose only meaning is to denote crest status. It costs 1 MF to move from the coal pile to crest status, and vice versa. It costs 1 MF to cross a coal ridge hex. Infantry always enters a coal pile hex in the coal pile, never in coal crest status. A coal ridge hex, excluding vertices not covered by the thick dark black line, blocks all access points of the same level through it, EXC. 2 from units in coal crest status in that hex. Open-air workshops. Open-air workshops have wood or steel support beams for walls and sheet metal roofs, are blue-gray in color, and only exist on Isla Provisor. They are treated as a wooden single-story house. Open-air workshops are a half-level line of sight hindrance, that also applies as a dice roll modifier to fire lanes with 0 TEM, EXC, plus 1 TEM versus indirect fire. Mortars may fire from an open-air workshop hex, but spotted fire is NA. Any high explosive, only, attack greater than or equal to 70 mm, or demolition charges /HA.T attack, with an original IFT dice roll that causes a kill in action on the appropriate infantry fire table column eliminates the workshop with no effect on any occupants/weapons, place a debris counter in that hex. The kindling and spread numbers for an open-air workshop are 7. Docks. Small docks are located along some of the esteros. Docks are treated as wooden piers, G13.7. The kindling and spread numbers for a dock are 7. Any round structure represents a storage tank, which is a level 1 obstacle with a +1 TEM. However, while its location is encircled, a 7.7, the in-hex TEM is reduced to 0. It is not a building for any purpose, e.g., it has no rooftop location, cannot be rubbled, nor can it catch fire in any way, it is not burnable terrain. Infantry pay 1 MF to enter a storage tank hex. A gun may neither set up and nor enter, nor may a DM 70 to 90 mm mortar be assembled in such a hex. The structure itself may never be entered/scaled climbed by any unit. The building in M36 is a multi-story building with a staircase. This building has 2 levels and a rooftop. The rest of the structures on this island are regular structures and there is no need to comment on them. Order of battle. American forces will set up and move first east of the 4P hex column, which basically comprises the coal pile and some stone buildings. This force will consist of 4 first-class squads, 6, 6, 6. 3 half squads, 3, 3, 7, and 1 squad, 3, 4, 6. 1 leader 8-1 and another 7-0. These units will be equipped with 1 heavy machine gun, 1 medium machine gun, 1 bazooka, 1 flamethrower, and 2 demolition charges. On turn 4, American reinforcements will enter using boats for this movement, including 3 motorized assault boats and 6 small rowing boats. This reinforcement will consist of 9 squads, 6, 6, 6. 2 squads, 3, 3, 7. Leaders, 9-2, 8-0, and 7-0. These units will be equipped with 2 medium machine guns, a bazooka, and 2 demolition charges. These units when entering the map on or east of column 4I in hexes greater than or equal to 41 with all boats beached and personnel as infantry. These units will have the ELR of 4 and the American sniper activation number of 3. The Japanese will set up after the Americans on Provisor Island in buildings and rubble in hexes greater than or equal to hex row 4N. The Japanese forces will consist of units from the Army's 2nd Provisional Battalion and will be formed by 1 elite unit, 4, 4, 8 elite. 7 units, 4, 4, 7 first class. 3 crews, 2, 2, 8. Leaders, 10-1, 9-0, and 8-0. They will be manned by a heavy machine gun, 2 medium machine guns, for light machine guns, and a 50 mm mortar. The Japanese will have 8 concealment markers. For fortifications, they will have a minefield marker with a factor of 6, 1 wire marker, and 1 trench marker. These forces will have an ELR of 3 and a sniper activation number of 5. Victory conditions. The Americans win at the end of any game turn if there are equal or less than 2 good order Japanese MMC still in play or at game end by controlling equal or more than 4 of the following buildings: 4I-37, 4K-38, 4L-37, 4N-37, and 4N-40. Special Scenario Rules. 1. Environmental conditions are moist, with a mild breeze from the northwest at start. Weather is overcast, E3.5. 2. Use German assault boat counters for motorized American boats. 3. The Americans receive 1 module of 80 mm OBA, E/WP, directed by an offboard observer, see 1.63, at level 3 in a North Edge hex recorded secretly prior to setup. 4. The Japanese player may designate less than or equal to 2 fortified building locations, B23.9, SSR SF07. Aftermath. In grim fighting reminiscent of the Germans and Soviets in Stalingrad, the Americans and Japanese fought bitterly for every battered workshop, building, and pile of rubble of this tiny speck of land on the Pasig River. By mid-afternoon on February 11th, all the defenders had been killed. In his initial demands for locations that he insisted must be captured intact, General MacArthur listed the water reservoirs northeast of the city, the Pasig River bridges, and the power plant and boiler room on Isla Provisor. The tenacious Japanese had denied him all but the water reservoirs. The conditions for the Battle of Manila were now set, everything was to be destroyed. Set up. The Americans will first deploy in hexes in column 41 and to the east of it. The Americans will begin the setup of the first group on Isla Provisor in hexes from hex 4P heading east. At the coal pile, we will deploy one squad in crest position in Q36 and Q37. 2 squads 6 to hex P39. Jim reconsiders the situation and moves the squads that were on the crest of the coal pile and transfers these squads to P40. 2 half squads will be positioned in the crest hexes on the coal pile. These half squads will form the American firebase and will have a medium machine gun and a heavy machine gun. Half squad 7 will be deployed to P39. This half squad will carry a flamethrower. Half squad 6 will be positioned at P40 and will receive a bazooka. The leader, 7-0, will assist with heavy machine gun fire to prevent cowering. The American leader, 8-1, will remain in the rear guard at hex Q38 to restore the morale of the American units. The Americans can deploy 10% of their units before the start of the battle, with the fractions rounded up. In this case, a squad 6 is deployed into 2 half squads, 3, 4, 6. These half squads will carry the demolition charges. With that, we've finished setting up the first group of Americans and will move on to the Japanese. Before we begin analyzing the Japanese positioning, at least 2 factors must be taken into account. The first is the fact that the Americans have access to an 80mm off-board battery. This battery will have an off-board observer on the 3rd level on the northern edge of the map. With this, an excellent line of sight over Provisor Island will be possible, which can cause significant damage, especially if Japanese units that are not under any type of defensive cover are hit. Therefore, it will be important for Japanese units to be positioned under some type of protection, preferably under stone buildings, such as the boiler and power station buildings. The second consideration is related to the entry of American reinforcements into the scenario in the 4th turn. These reinforcements will arrive in ships from hexes higher than hex 40I. Thus, it is anticipated that the Americans will enter east of P41, where they will have some protection from the units stationed on Provisor Island. Based on these 2 considerations, the Japanese will preferably station their units in stone buildings, probably the power plant and the boiler room, which should be fortified according to the Special Scenario Rule 4. In this way, they can harass the American units on the island and try to occupy strategic positions from where they can attack the American reinforcement units. First, let's fortify the buildings. The Japanese have the right to fortify at least 2 buildings, and the chosen ones are the power plant and the boiler room. In this way, these buildings will have a terrain effect modifier of +4. These buildings will be the backbone of the Japanese positions, and most of their units will be concentrated there. Like the Americans, the Japanese have the right to deploy 10% of their equivalent squads, one squad because fractions are rounded up. The chosen squad is Squad 4, 4, 8, and it becomes two half squads 2, 3, 8. In the boiler room building, we will concentrate squads 4, 4, 7 on the ground floor, to which leaders 90 and 80 will be added. Two squads 4, 4, 7 along with the heavy machine gun and one of the medium machine guns in the boiler room, accompanied by their respective crews and the leader 10-1. One of the light machine guns will reinforce the firepower of this sector. In the boiler room, two more squads are added to the lower floor. On the upper floor of this building, the remaining medium machine gun and a squad with a light machine gun will be positioned, the latter on the upper floor. Leaders 80 and 90 will position themselves on the lower floor in a preparatory movement for a possible banzai charge on the American positions. The presence of leaders along with the banzai charge units adds a point to the morale of these units, in addition to the extra point for the banzai charge itself. The main Japanese fire base will be concentrated on the power plant, and the remaining light machine guns are positioned in this building. The trench is placed at 4L40 in a hidden manner. It is out of line of sight of the enemy forces. The wire goes to 4M38. The minefield will be hidden at 4M37. Oops, this squad with the medium machine gun will be replaced by Crew 2, 2, 8. The mortar with one of the half squads will position itself under the shell hole marker at 4K37. One of the problems with Tabletop Simulator is the difficulty in visualizing the units in the stacks, and Jim lost one of the half squads 2, 3, 8 and must search one stack at a time. I found it with the light machine gun at 4N36. Okay, the half squad and the mortar will be under the shell hole marker. Thinking about the logic of the banzai charge, half squad 2, 3, 8 will go to the units in the boiler room while one of the squads 4, 4, 7 will stay with the mortar. The concealment markers are distributed among the various units that are in concealment terrain, which does not include the units under the marker of shell hole. After reflecting on the possibility of the banzai charge, the Japanese leader 80 had been chosen to pull this charge because it would be the unit that would have the line of sight over the Americans in the coal pile. With this, the Japanese squads participating in the eventual charge at ground level could not count on the additional morale point, and we will leave the half squad with the light machine gun at 4N36 to activate this banzai charge. Again, Jim changes his mind and believes that the 4, 4, 8 squad that underwent the deployment can be fundamental to the success of the banzai charge and reverses the situation and makes the deployment occur with one of the many 4, 4, 7 squads that become 2, 3, 7 half squads. Alright friends, with the positioning of the Japanese forces, let's conclude this presentation and move on to the first round of this battle. The main highlights in this scenario are the presence of an American offboard battery and the amphibious attack on the Japanese positions on Provisor Island. See you soon, namaste.